So we got our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 box, which, you know, we've done this with. So it's time to dig into the figures and talk about what's competitive, what's kitchen table play, and, you know, roughly how we're going to be using these figures once we get them into the game of Heroclix. So without further ado, let's talk Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Right, so here we are in the Wizkids Convention Center, and let's get the show on the road, starting with figure number 001, Rocket Raccoon. I guess I figured out that he is the star of the show at this point. Comes in at 65 points. He's got 6 range, 2 targets, improved movement, ignore hindering, ignore characters, with a special defense power. Stand still, you vermin! Rocket can use Mastermind and Super Senses. He can use Mastermind regardless of point value if the friendly character shares a keyword with Rocket. So this is just an early taste there of the new rules. He is 18 points. This time he didn't come in a tiny. Did he grow a little? Whatever. Guardians of the Galaxy, Animal, Pilot, and Robot keywords worth noting. So we look at the dial, and this is a really good dial for a 65-point character. He peaks with an 11 attack on the 4th click, which is kind of a dangerous place. 9 movement with running shot, and some that's just off the top. You know, he comes with some energy explosion, which is going to be better in the future, and it's not really much of a change if you look at the fact that he's got 2 targets. A really reasonable choice, especially in the world of animal keywords and robot keywords. Robot's going to go away in the upcoming modern rotation. But animal is still very prevalent, very relevant, and probability control on a team that is a generic theme team can go a long way. And on your Guardians of the Galaxy kitchen table teams, he's definitely going to be a linchpin prob use, for sure. So, Rocket may not see high level competitive play, but he'll see some tournament play for sure, and definite good piece on your Guardians of the Galaxy, theme teams. For sure. All right, next up, I'm gonna get real close to the camera now, and this is Groot. Oh man, I'm gonna try to focus in on him. Look at this little guy. All right, this is my thumbnail next to him. He is so small, ridiculously small. All right, let's refocus here and talk about his card. So he's Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic keywords. Ignores hindering for movement. He's got a trait, I am Groot. Groot can use sidestep, so traded sidestep, very strong, and friendly characters within 1 square can use ignores elevated terrain for movement. And that's a good way to get people off of get elevated, get them up on top of elevated, just good positioning power in general. And as well, he's got enhancement and shape change, and he's tiny. So carrying around an enhancer is really good. The evasion from shape change can go a little far. And the fact that he's 17 defense and tiny means he's like an 18 defense at range. He also has smoke cloud and stealth at first, which turns into plasticity and poison on his last click. In competitive play, I wouldn't expect to see that last click. In regular play, though, or just in general, a really good support piece for 30 points. The fact that he adds his own defensiveness, the fact that he can make things a little bit more flexible as far as their movement is concerned. I'm sorry about the focusing here because it's trying to focus on a little guy in this. He's a relatively decent support character who's going to make your Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lords, and Rocket Raccoons for sure hit a lot harder at range. And, you know, generally a pretty decent support character. Meta play? Probably not. But really good on your Guardians of the Galaxy teams. Or, you know, a little support on the Cosmic team can go a long way. Because a lot of characters with Cosmic as a keyword tend to be really high in the point value. So something that low point value to fill it all up can go a long way. All right, next up we have Mantis. She ignores hindering for movement. She's Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic, and Martial Artist for keywords. And then we look at the dial because it's pretty much what you see is what you get. She's indomitable at 55 points, which is pretty strong. She starts as a bit of a brawler character and turns into a late dial probber. Again, she's going to add some oomph to your Guardians of the Galaxy teams, this is going to be the first figure I say really doesn't have a place in any way, shape, or form in competitive play, but, you know, that's okay. You're allowed to, you know, have some off figures. But rounds out a Guardians of the Galaxy team fairly well in casual play, especially with that late dial probability control. And for now, Prob and Regen is a good combination. Come the new rule set, though, not going to be as strong a combination of powers. Yeah. All right. Next up, we talk Star-Lord. Who? Star-Lord. Star-Lord is Guardians of the Galaxy Spartoy Pilot and Soldier keywords. He's got a special damage power. I have 12% of a plan. Star-Lord can use leadership and outwit, and when he rolls a critical hit, he can outwit two more times this turn. So that's kind of a win more power for kind of hitting the jackpot on a critical hit, so don't count on that. But the fact that he has leadership and outwit is already strong. 6 range as well. And, you know, outwit being a strong power as it is, leadership being a stronger power in the new rule set. Like, when we look to the new rule set, this is going to be a figure whose stock value goes up a little higher. Now, in competitive play, don't expect to take 2 damage. On average, you take about 3. But he does have 17 defense with energy shield to start at 70 points. 6 range. Not really going to make a splash in the big scene, but he's going to be a linchpin of your Guardians of the Galaxy theme teams on the kitchen table or the casual play market, because Guardians of the Galaxy together are going to be quite potent. You know, soldier keywords soldier teams always do very well too in casual play. I like building teams of soldiers myself. All right, next we have Drax. Drax, Guardians of the Galaxy Brute Warrior keywords. He's got the Path of Vengeance trait. Drax can use Colossal Stamina, modifies combat values by +1 for each action token on him, and when he clears action tokens, you may heal him 1 click. So basically, you keep pushing him, keep his stats high. Don't expect him to live particularly long, but if you can make that damage count, make it count. And you can see you definitely need some extra tokens on him with the dial set. We'll see later. We've also seen him previewed. That special damage power, which he doesn't have on his first click, has on the rest. If an opposing character is within line of fire, Drax can use Battle Fury. Now note that doesn't say range in line of fire. He has a range 0. Line of fire is just in general. If you can draw a line of fire, even if it's across the board, a clear line of fire to somebody, he's going to have Battle Fury, which makes him a little difficult to carry. But it does get around those annoying powers like Shape Change. As well, you know, if you can keep 2 tokens on him, these stats are actually 2 bigger. Each action is going to be at a cost of a damage, but at some point you can turn around and just heal for a turn if you can get him protected. There's a strategy here, but it's not a super winning strategy. But in casual play, people are going to underestimate him and eat fists for it. And also note the first time he takes 2 action tokens, where on his first click here, where he'll have an 18 defense with Invincible, he is indomitable to take the first 2 action tokens before he starts Colossal Stamina his way through the game. So it's just a shame he has Sidestep instead of Charge or something like that off the top. All right, next up, Gamora, Guardians of the Galaxy Martial Arts and Warrior. You don't see much going on. She's got a 4 range. But then you see the powers and the numbers, and this is what this figure is all about. It's 65 points for Perplex, Precision Strike, Indomitable, Combat Reflexes, and Charge. This is just a strong character for the point value. And, you know, that's okay sometimes. Sometimes traits cost a lot of points, and a 65-point character who's just good is okay as well. I like Gamora a lot. And there's some swarm strategies with the current enabling tools that we have that might see some play in the future. Post-rotation, possibly. It all depends on who's brave enough. All right, next up, we have a Ravager. Ravager, Pilot, and Pirate keywords. During Force Construction, this is a Pirate's Life for Me trait. During Force Construction, you may pay 20 points for this character. If you do, at the beginning of the game, choose a starting line. During Force Construction, you may pay 10 points each for up to 4 of this character. If you do, at the beginning of the game, an opponent must choose a distinct starting line for each one. And then you've got the Taking Prisoners special attack power. When Ravager hits with an attack after action is resolved, give the hit character an action token. You see there's a lot of powers, but all of them are on 2-click dials. Not quite the enabler that the Morlock is, where he's only got the 1 click, but a lot of these are really flexible in a lot of cases. Running shot energy explosion isn't bad, and I believe that is support. That is support. So 20 points for 10 attack support isn't a terrible investment. And I'm looking at this like if you choose. If your opponent chooses, they're probably going to take something along this line, where you're going to get the Blades, 2 damage, and Battle Fury. Like Blades and Battle Fury is going to hurt because if they have a range attacker, they're going to just pick this guy off. If you're paying the 20 points though, leap, climb, and empower, that's the route you're going. Sidestep and enhancement is also another way you can go, but this is probably a very likely choice. If you have a team that can hit, take a little bit of a beating, and come back and try to get healed. So that's the Ravager in a nutshell. Filling in a spot, not terrible. Could do worse, but it's not quite the enabler that the Morlock is for things like Proteus. And that's why a lot of people are using the Morlock right now as a Proteus engine. Next up, we have Sovereign. Pilot keyword. Density reassignment is his defense power. Sovereign can use toughness and willpower. When he has 1 action token, he can use invulnerability. When he has 2, he can use impervious. Does he have that throughout his entire dial? He does on the first 4 clicks if you pay 80 points for him. If you happen to pay 20 points for him, he's got phasing, toughness, and support. So once again, we're getting the support power is starting to show up an awful lot. He's also got the PD team ability. So if you need a cheap guy to help boost your attack values against opponents at range, he can go a long way towards that. So that is Sovereign, 25-point healer or 80-point kind of character. 25.1 is likely to see some play in the limited format, if anything, because limited being formats where you don't see a lot. Sorry, Rock Limited. The Rock being another group that runs Heroclix tournaments. They run a format called Limited where you're not allowed to use resources and extra little bits. And this is a character who might see 25-point play in that. Next up, Kraglin. Carry out his orders, you bums, is his trait. He's also got Ravager's Pilot and Pirate for keywords. His trait, adjacent friendly characters that are either equal or less points or have the Ravager's keyword can use willpower. His defense is very suffering on that. So unless you're really, really well protecting him to give out some willpower, not going to see a lot of play on the competitive market. But on that same note, pirate teams are starting to be formable. And sharing or Ravagers actually is going to be a keyword that's shared with quite a few figures out there. Not quite a few, actually. There's not that many now that I'm actually doing the math here. I don't know. I don't even see much play for him in general. I will play him once and then probably bin him. But overall, very flavorful character. Kind of pushing people to keep going. Yeah. All right. Next up, the most adorable duo ever created, Rocket and Groot. Guardians of the Galaxy Animal, Cosmic, and Pilot keywords. Ignores characters for movement. I am Groot is the trait. Give Rocket and Groot a free action to place adjacent a Groot twig bystander if it's not already on the map. What isn't already one on the map. This is what it looks like. This is a Groot twig. 6 movement with plasticity, 10 attack with poison, which is going to lose some stock in the future, but then the breaks, 18 defense, and tiny. So this is actually a little bit higher defense than the 30-point Groot that we talked about earlier. And he's got this trait, let's go for a ride at the beginning of your turn. If you began the turn on the map, so it's got to be like after a turn he's been on the map, you may remove Groot Twig from the map if he's adjacent to a friendly character, number 10, Rocket and Groot. Also note, it's a free action to place him, so this could help really get some oomph out of this character's damage because of that enhancement. And then it's got this rocket power. If Groot Twig is KO'd, you may not place a Groot Twig bystander for the rest of the game, and Rocket and Groot modify their combat values by +1 and can use Precision Strike this game. If Rocket and Groot are KO'd, you may place a Groot Twig bystander in the square they last occupied if there's not already one on the map, and modify that character's combat values by +1 in this game. Now note, you can't place a Groot Twig if a Groot Twig has died, so if it dies after having a Groot Twig die, he's not going to be placing a brand new one. It's got to be if your Groot Twig hasn't died. I believe that's how it's all working out. Beginning of the turn, give it a place if there's not everyone on the map. If Groot Twig is KO'd, yeah. So if the Groot Twig is ever KO'd, you can't place any Groot Twig bystanders for the rest of the game. And then as a result, so based on the idea that the Groot Twig hasn't died, you can get a Groot Twig at +1 to its stats if Rocket and Groot die, and this has never died. Which, whoa, geez, that would be a scary pog, to say the least. But let's take a look at the stats that this character has now. It's got stealth with 18 defense, with willpower, 2 damage without wit. Its stock value goes up on the newer rules. 70 points, not terrible. And getting that Groot Twig out to enhance can go a long way. Not glaringly awesome in competitive play, but he's going to be awesome on your Guardians of the Galaxy teams in casual play. Very cool figure. I like him. I'm going to use him a lot, I'm sure, in quite a few teams. And also very hard to hold down because of that. So, all right. Next, we have our chase, Nebula. Guardians of the Galaxy, minions of Thanos, Assassin, Cosmic, and Pilot keywords. Ignores characters for movement. She's got a trait, Cutting Deep. Nebula can use Blade's Claws Fangs. This is traded Blade's Claws Fangs, and when she does, she can instead roll 2d6 and choose 1 as the result. And then she's got special movement power where she can use Charge and Flurry, which she starts on her first 3 clicks with. She's 100 points, so a bit of a steep investment. But you got to think this is a full dial of Blade's Claws Fangs that you get to pick your dice roll on. She's not indomitable. She does start without wit and then moves to probability control, becomes range combat expert, then moves to outwit and then range combat expert. It's a little volatile on the dial side, very close combat focused. For 100 points in the competitive game, you could do better, but she is going to be awesome in play in general. Everything about her is really cool, and I like her. Again, not going to stop me from playing her in general, but I don't expect to see me at Nationals with a figure like this. But overall, just a neat, flavorful character. Very, very potent blades, especially when you think about being able to choose the highest of 2 dice on a blades roll. You oftentimes, even when you're rolling 2 dice for an attack, you see at least 1 high die, and that will be the one that becomes your blades. All right, so let's wrap this up. And that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Movie sets are generally, as a whole, not super hyper competitive, but there are a lot of fun figures and very new player friendly figures as well. So keep that in mind when you see these sets and you're trying to introduce players and new players into the game. Get them in with figures like these. A great choice because unlike some other figures we've seen that are, they're starters but they're not that great. These are figures that players can actually put up a fight with if you introduce them into tournament play eventually. And I wouldn't suggest bringing them to things like Nationals or high-level Worlds tournaments with these figures and expect a lot of success. But your local tournament, you're going to have a little bit of fun with them. You're going to feel like you're putting up a fight. And overall, just a pretty decent collection of figures in this. So that's our assessment of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Thank you guys very much for watching. Wizkids, once again, thank you a ton for providing us with the figures. It's been a great romp, and we look forward to playing with these figures on our own time.